We want to thank our outgoing vestry members. No need to stand right now, but Frank Malbin, Mariah Kitchen-Moore, Donna Ure, and Bob Taylor, who have faithfully served the vestry the last 3 years. Thank those who are standing for vestry election this year. And I want to thank all of you who've supported our mission and our community in the past year, all of you who gave of your abilities, your time, your finances to God and to Galilee. And again, thank you for the staff. A lot of them are sitting here in the front row. Some are sitting up in the balcony, but I come here every day appreciative of the strong and able staff that we have. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago that we hope this check for $625,000 coming from the ERTC. But before we get too excited about that, I need to tell you about a few big expenses that we have in the coming year. That money's already spent, as it were. We have a chiller. Now, I didn't know before I started working here what a chiller is. There's a room, it's kind of a secret room downstairs, hidden behind two steel doors, where there is this giant cylindrical thing. And that is what keeps this space cool 3 seasons a year. Now, chillers have about a 20-year lifespan. We're at year 22 and a half right now, and it's got 2 pumps on it. One is just about to fail. The other one is still working. We've got it jerry-rigged so that it will keep going, we hope, through the summer and through next fall. But that's a $330,000 expense that is coming up. And I know you all want to stay cool 3 seasons a year. So we're going to get that done. It will be fully installed this time next year. There's another expense coming up. About 2 years ago, we bought a house, a third house that the church owns and operates that allows us to keep some of our staff close. It is right on Holly Road, and we have a balloon payment coming due on that of about $200,000 in a couple of years. So we're mindful of that. There is a third expense coming up, and I talked about it last year at our annual meeting. I predicted that we would have this expense at some point. I just didn't expect it to come so quickly. And it's something I need to spend the rest of my talk talking about, because for some of you, you'll think to yourselves, why on earth? I can see why we need a chiller. I can see why we need to have a house for staff, but I don't see why we need this expense. So I want to think with you about it. I may not persuade you all this morning, but I want to lay out why we're doing this. It has to do with a pipe organ. In 1957, when this structure was built, Galilee installed a pipe organ. It's just back behind there in a room behind that lattice work. And if I had to compare a pipe organ to cars, I would describe that as a Ford Fiesta. It's small, it'll get you around, it's got good gas mileage, but it's a tiny little thing that's not very expensive, and it's just right now about 600 pipes, and it was built to accompany a very small choir. It's hidden there behind, that woodwork. The sound doesn't really come out. It has never been adequate for this space, and as Galilee has grown over the years, it's become less and less adequate. In fact, your previous rector, Coleman Tyler, recognized in 2001 that it was inadequate, and Coleman is an organist as well. And so he was faced 22 years ago with a decision about what to do: install a pipe organ or the alternative, which is an electronic organ. And I wasn't there, but Paige Lee was, and he told me about the meeting, and he said that after a lot of debate, they decided the right thing to do at that time was to install an electronic organ. And that is actually what you saw, or what you see. If you turn around and look behind you, there's a console up there, a keyboard, and there's speakers on the back wall. That's what you heard today, was the electronic organ. That's where that sound comes from. Now, like the chiller, electronic organs have a lifespan of about 20 years. The electronics inside them degrade. In fact, this machine died on us not long ago. One of the computer chips inside it failed, and about $3,000 or $4,000 later, we got it fixed, just in time for a wedding that we were going to have here on a Saturday morning. And this is incredible, but about 7 minutes before the wedding was to begin, smoke started seeping out the back of that machine. And fortunately, our supply organist shut it down before it caught fire. That was another expensive repair, and we expect these issues to continue. This is what happens to these machines after about 20 years. So in some ways, this is a stewardship decision, and we're faced with the choice again, another electronic organ that would last 20 years, or a real pipe organ that will literally last centuries. Now, over the course of the last year, the vestry and I have discussed this matter at length over many meetings, and on your behalf, they have asked good questions and the right questions. They recognize that 2 out of 3 services on Sunday mornings utilize a pipe organ. They recognize the pipe organ remains the instrument of choice for funerals and weddings. Our organist runs our children's choir. We heard one of them today. The pipe organ and the organist together, they touch many aspects of our life together. And so the vestry and I feel that it's worth investing in an instrument that will serve us reliably for the next 200 years and not go up in smoke before your daughter's wedding. Now, when I went on a search, after Gustavo, our organist, left several years ago, we paused the search for the organist, and I realized pretty quickly that in order to get a really good organist and choir master, we had to have a good organ, or at least the promise of an organ in the future. And again, the vestry was behind that. So my expectation was that, Mary Dolch, our new organist choir master, would be here for 3, 4, 5 years. We'd build the program, we'd get your sense of, we're behind this, and then we would come to the congregation with a proposal, and we would raise the money at that point for a pipe organ. However, a week before Mary got here, she emailed me with an opportunity. It turns out that a church in Massachusetts was shutting down, a Methodist church, and they had a pristine, never altered pipe organ for sale. And it wasn't just any pipe organ, it was a Skinner, Skinner. Now, most of you wouldn't have any reason to know this, but Skinner pipe organs produced some of the best instruments in the last century. Skinners are known for their full, embracing, supportive sound without being overly loud. Now, if what we have up there is a Ford Fiesta, a Skinner organ is quite literally a Rolls Royce. Skinner organs were and still are status symbols for large churches and cathedrals. There are pipe organ companies today that try and replicate the sound of a Skinner, but to no avail. It's like trying to make a Stradivarius. It just can't be done. You can't replicate a Skinner. Now, this particular Skinner for sale was built in 1924. Organs built during that era had an unparalleled capability to encompass a room with warmth and breadth of tone. They are great for all kinds of repertoire, for accompanying other instruments like trumpets that we had today, and yes, bagpipes. But most of all, and this is what really matters to me, and I hope it matters to you, is that they encourage people to sing. This electronic organ does not motivate you to sing. This organ that we're talking about will move you to sing. And that's why we want an organ, to glorify God and worship. That's the bottom line. Now, finding an organ like this for sale was exciting, not least from a cost perspective, because new pipe organs are very, very expensive. A few years ago, Bruton Parish in Williamsburg installed a brand new pipe organ. Anyone want to guess? North of $4 million. Christ in St. Luke's recently spent north of $2 million renovating their pipe organ, and they both have very fine instruments in place. So how much, you might ask, was it to acquire this Rolls-Royce Skinner pipe organ in Massachusetts? It was $75,000. Yes. Now, Diego, if we could have picture number 1. We sent Mary up to Massachusetts. There is Mary, smiling next to the Skinner pipe work. We sent her up there to evaluate it, and to, having played here and knowing the acoustic environment here, would it be a good fit for our church? We also had a specialist from New England evaluate that pipe organ and come to Galilee to make sure that it would be a fit for here, and everyone agreed this was a great instrument for this space. So we have purchased it. We have purchased an absolutely gorgeous vintage instrument, which, with its historical significance, will actually, and this may not, again, matter to a lot of you, but it will put Galilee firmly on the map from a musical standpoint. But even though we bought it, we still need a pipe organ firm to renovate it and install it. They have to rework our Ford Fiesta and turn it into something closer to a Rolls-Royce so that those pipes can match with the Skinner pipes. And so we pulled together a committee. Committee doesn't need to stand up, but we got people from all three services: Robin Jordan, Raj Bakshi, Sandy Burrows, Tony Zontini, John Parker, Agnes Wynn, Mary Kay Tyson, Robin Rawls, and Steve Harris. And they have, over the last few months, evaluated 5 different proposals from different firms. They recommended one. The name of the firm is Quimby, Q-U-I-M-B-Y, Pipe Organ. They're a highly reputable firm. Next month, the Skinner will be taken from its current location and taken to Quimby, Oregon. They will begin refurbishing the organ and prepare it for installation at Galilee, which will not occur until 2025, March 2025, 2 years from now. They're going to incorporate those 600 pipes from the organ up front, and with the addition of the Skinner pipes, we will have about 3,600 pipes to fill this space with a beautiful sound. Now, the Skinner is going to go up there in the balcony. I'm getting through this. I'm almost done through this pitch. Now, I mentioned earlier that the pipe organ at Christ and St. Luke's in Norfolk, it's fantastic. They have a fabulous space. Actually, I heard Mary play a concert recital there a few weeks ago, and the sound of that pipe organ in that space was atmospheric. It was textured. It was layer upon layer. It really was a feast for the ears. But, and I say this not because I'm your minister or because I have an investment in this space, our acoustic space is better than Christ and St. Luke's, and the instrument, if this matters to you, the instrument that we're going to have is better than Christ and St. Luke's. In fact, a local expert in pipe organ installation said to me a few weeks ago, when Galilee's project is done, the pipe organ at Christ and St. Luke's will forever live in its shadow. Now, I mean, if that motivates you to give, great. Now, some of you may be thinking, you know, is this a nefarious plan by Father Andy to do away with the contemporary service and contemporary music? And the answer is a firm no. We believe at Galilee we can do both. We are firmly committed to both traditional and contemporary worship at Galilee. The vision here is not to edge out contemporary worship with the pipe organ. In fact, I know, we have work to do to make both our contemporary worship and our traditional worship better. And in fact, that's actually number one on my list of things to do this year. I want Galilee to have the very best contemporary worship and the very best traditional worship on the ocean front. There's a need for both. And so my priority this year is to bring both to the forefront and bring our worship in both services several steps forward. So let me draw this to a close. What's the cost of this? Well, the purchase price of the Skinner was $75,000. The installation of it, in order to rework the pipes, get them here, is about $1.5 million. I'm happy to share, though, that over the last 6 years, we've had several gifts come in, some bequests that, with the donor's consent, were put into an account for a future pipe organ. We also had an unexpected gift from a new parishioner. We had a retired organist join our congregation. She attends online. This is a great story. To my knowledge, this individual has only been in Galilee once, and not on a Sunday morning. All of her experience has been of Galilee online. And she is, again, a retired organist. She understands the value of a real pipe organ as opposed to an electronic one. And she gave us a gift in memory of her late husband, who was an organ builder. And it was a gift of $200,000. And to me, that's remarkable, that someone from outside this regular community so believes. And it's not just because she believes in a pipe organ. She listens to the sermon. She believes in what's being preached. She believes in the mission that we're about and the ministries that we're doing. I'm going to tell you more about her later, and her husband, Gordon, whose memory that money was given. But Joyce, we believe you're watching right now, and we thank you, and we're glad that you're part of our community. Now, because of all the gifts that we've received, we have about $500,000 of seed money toward this project. My hope is that we can find some lead gifts to significantly reduce the remaining $1 million that we need, and then I will ask the congregation to support this project at a future point. Now, one last point of interest, and then I really will close. When it's installed, there will be a console. It will kind of look like that keyboard up there that will control the pipes in the balcony and also the pipes up front here. But we told Quimby Pipe Organ Firm that we wanted a console back in here so that we could also control the pipe organ from the front. The problem is that niche behind me to your left, it's kind of small. But as God would have it, in their storage, Quimby had an unusual console, an unusual keyboard that the Skinner Company made a century ago, and they only made a handful of these. It's called a Batwing console. So if you could put the next picture up, Diego. There's only 2 of them left. One of them is in Cobble, that's misspelled, but Cobble Hall at UVA. Ours is at Quimby has this other Batwing console. They fold up, and it can fit in this little niche here. There's only 2 of these Batwings left. They're tremendously historically significant, and of course ours is bigger than UVA's, and it's in better shape. But isn't that remarkable that the only 2 sister organs of this type will be here and in Cobble Hall at UVA? Again, more important than the fact that we'll have a historic, unique pipe organ, it will be an organ that will encourage people to sing. It will add to our worship, and it will glorify the Lord. Now, as I said in the sermon, God's timing is not our timing. Frankly, I would never have chosen now to put this project in front of you. Following COVID, or in the middle of a recession, following an embezzlement and all that stress and yuck, never would have planned this. But God's timing is not my timing, and this is where we are, and I trust God. So again, fully committed to traditional and contemporary. I want them to be all that they can be. But a reminder that what we do here on Sunday, it's not for us, it's for the Lord. And because of His worth, we want to offer the very best back to Him, our greatest praise and honor. So again, I'll close here. I ran into someone at Kroger 2 weeks ago who worships at another Episcopal church in town. And she said, you're the new rector at Galilee, right? And I said, sort of new. I've been there 14 years. And she couldn't believe how much time had passed. And really, I think Dana and I would say the same thing. We can't believe how the time has passed. But as I say every year, it truly is an honor to be your rector and to serve you with the staff that we have. And Dana and I are very pleased to be part of your family. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Mary, I'm envisioning a future service with you dressed as Batwoman behind a Batwing up there, so we'll see how that works out. Well, good morning again, everybody, and welcome to the annual meeting. To begin with, I just call your attention to the annual report again this year. There's just so much stuff in there we can't possibly cover it all this morning, but particularly if you know of somebody who's not here this morning and you can take a copy of that and take it back to share with them, please do, because there's just lots of great information and great stories in there. I want to touch base on just a few things this morning. First of all, I don't want to belabor it too much, and Father Andy already touched on it, but between all of us, we spent an awful lot of time this past year, many hours wading through the details relative to the embezzlement. And it was an unfortunate waste of time, but an important effort for us to wade through that. And we'll continue to do that through our year-end audit. The good news at the end of the day is that Galilee will be made whole for the losses. And I hope that the communications that we've shared with you all have answered the questions that you might have had. But as Father Andy shared, if there's anything else that we might be able to fill in the blanks on, don't hesitate to give one of us a call. We'd be happy to touch base on that. Father Andy also touched on the great work in missions and outreach that all of us at Galilee are involved in. And again, it's so many of you all that are a part of that and make it so very special. Again, there are great stories in here that kind of cover some of that activity, but that activity has seen significant growth this past year, and I encourage you to read through the stories in this report and hopefully maybe find some opportunities for you to get more engaged in some of the activity if you're not already. And third, and most importantly, I think we're certainly blessed with an exceptional team here at Galilee, and that starts with Father Andy, and I want to thank him for his leadership this past year. But he and Father Ben and Father Nigel will continue to explore new ways to guide and to teach us and carry us in our faith journey. It's also been wonderful to see the growth of our children's ministry with Lily Tiller at the head and Mary Dolch bringing her exceptional talents and a whole really significant new energy to the music program and to our choir and to our children's choir that you had a chance to hear this morning. And to Nathan Horner, who's hit the ground running with our youth ministry, and I look to see what more they have in store for us in the year ahead. Of course, with Henry Conde stepping down, we do have one key, very key vacancy to fill in that of our parish administrator. And I want to echo Father Andy's thanks to Robbie for stepping in the interim as we work through the search process and hope to have a new individual on board in that position very soon. We're, as we said, in the process of reviewing candidates now and encouraged by what we've seen. So thanks again, appreciate the opportunity to serve this past year, and I'll turn it over to Jock Fries for the Junior Warden's report.
Well, as we know, Andy's a tough act to follow, and Bob as well. Ben reminded me a few minutes ago that I needed to keep this short, so I am going to keep it short. So I'm going to take this out, and this, and this. I'm going to just do this part right here. The role of the junior warden in an Episcopal church is that he or she is responsible for buildings and grounds. Sounds simple, right? Well, let's dig in a little deeper, because when I was elected to the vestry and named junior warden, I didn't really know much about this, and I had taken a lot of things for granted about what it takes to operate Galilee and the rest of the campus. So some of the things that I've taken for granted: maintenance and upgrades of 3 buildings that house staff members and their families, care of the columbarium, mulching, landscaping. These things, they don't just happen by themselves. Parking lot maintenance, regular maintenance, including painting, cleaning, generator, kitchen systems, organ and pianos, exterior lighting, security systems, the new HVAC system that Andy spoke about. We also host weddings, funerals, and AA meetings. So lots and lots of things are hosted here. Plus, the Galilee Montessori School utilizes a significant portion of our campus, and there's always a high level of attention paid to ensuring a safe, comfortable, and welcoming environment for our students, staff, parents, and faculty. Speaking of children, with 3rd and 4th generation families here at Galilee, there are many youth activities, including, as we know, coming up is Vacation Bible School and the Christmas pageant. Both take about 250 people, young people, teenagers, and adult volunteers. And then there's the Cove, a very special place that kids can call their own. If you haven't been down there, I encourage you to go. It's a very cool place. I wish we had one for the adults. Just visit it and you'll see why. Now, I was able to take out a whole bunch of stuff about the steeple here because Andy covered that pretty doggone well. And he, of course, thanks for Henry for what he did. I'd like to also mention John Vick, our head sexton, because he helps in a great way for all the things that Henry was doing, and he's done a lot of things to help me understand what goes on here this past year. So I hope that I've shed a little bit of light on the things that I've taken for granted here at Galilee, and that you might appreciate that. Thank you for letting me to serve with you, and I'll turn it over to John Clunan.
Well, it's even harder to follow Jock with his list of things. So my list is actually much shorter, and mainly I just wanted to reassure everyone that Galilee is financially very strong. we're in a good place, even with the investment happening. We've got over 1.4 million in liquid assets, so we've got a lot of flexibility. We've paid down the loan on the Holly Street house $70,000 last year, and we're going to continue to pay it down. We've renewed our commitments of $114,000 to our outreach recipients, which include the JCOC, the Eastern Shore Food Pantry, the Penn Ministries, and the Achievable Dream, just to mention a few. Our Galilee Montessori School is growing. They had shrunken during COVID, but now they're expanding again, so that's good. And thanks to Robbie, we are actually fully staffed. And so that's great. We are able to help all those missions, and we're able to help the community continue to grow. One of the dynamics you may have noticed as you've looked through the numbers is that the number of pledges that we had this year was down, but the total amount per pledge was up. Now this is an interesting dynamic because we've seen the number of unpledged collections increase. Last year it increased 24% to 514,000 and represents about 24% of the offerings that we had last year. Now, I believe that this trend is going to continue, particularly when it becomes a lot easier to do our pledging or our giving online, and we'll probably see more online giving going forward. So it's just something to keep in mind, not to get too worried about number of pledges going down. Money is still coming in. The other thing that you probably haven't seen, but I'm going to mention because it is significant given where we are with inflation these days and with what we're experiencing in the cost of labor, is that there have been significant increases in the facility maintenance and grounds expenses, particularly utilities and the material costs that we're seeing. So those numbers have been going up, and they represent a fairly large increase. And as most of us have probably experienced just going out to the grocery store and buying eggs, for example. And so I have a whole other bunch of other things, but they've already been covered, so I will just say that in closing, we've successfully weathered some turbulence, and we can look to the future with confidence. Thank you.
Thanks, John. If any of you all are interested in the rest of Jock's remarks, I'll hold on to these for you up here. That's the time of the meeting where we'd open it up for any of you all who might have any questions, so we're happy to do that. We might wait till we get the microphone to you. It's coming down there now.
Is it on? Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
I just wanted to say something about Father Andy's comments. Implied in everything he said, perhaps not explicitly, is I can tell you, having been around church music for a long time, there are people in Tidewater who drive 20 miles to listen to the music at Christ in St. Luke's. And once they listen to it, they stay there. And when people visit and they hear that quality of music, they come back because people are blessed by music. And by that music, we bring them under the grace that we want people in this church to have. So there's a lot to it that Father Andy implied that I think you should be aware of as we move forward with the great music program. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone up here, Ben? All right.
I just had something really struck me, what Father Andy said about the funerals. And I wondered how many funerals are held here by people that are not parishioners, that get to experience the music and our church, and maybe that's their first time coming to church, or one of the few times in the year. Maybe even more people than Christmas would come to a funeral. I was just curious if you've ever had a record of the non-parishioner funerals that are held here?
I can only answer that sort of anecdotally. We do maybe 25, 30 funerals a year, and probably half are people who either don't attend or don't regularly attend here.
Yeah. You know, when you were asking the question, it just made me think back to my mother's funeral about a year ago here. And keep in mind, the context of that was kind of coming out of COVID. We hadn't been together. We hadn't been really doing music. Much of the time, Mary was not aboard yet. And to have a full, a large crowd in here with an organ and everybody singing, it was a moving experience, it really was. Anything else? Well, let me move to just say a word of thanks for the outgoing vestry members this year, which is a little awkward since I'm one of those. But for Frank Malvin, for Mariah Moore, and for Donna Ewer, just came in with a great group of folks and really have appreciated their contributions over the past 3 years. They've been an outstanding team to work with, so engaged in so many ways, and just a pleasure to have them with us. I'm going to move over and serve on the Finance Committee, but all those others are already involved in so many other ways. Just a round of applause for their contributions over this past 3 years.
We give, it's our pledge. Am I not on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. Now? Okay. Every year we give a Taste Unlimited gift box as sort of a symbol of our thanks to the outgoing members, and also a book of common prayer. And we've got them right outside the door. So outgoing vestry members, would you please stand so we can, Bob's already standing. Outgoing, yeah. Thank you. Frank Malvin, Mariah. If you're newer to Galilee, we'd like to introduce the Galilee staff to you. So if those in the front row could stand and turn around, I'll just call you out by name. We've got right here Lily Tiller, who's the Director of Children's Ministries, Ruth Wilkins, who heads up our adult ministries and our newcomer ministries, Patsy Martin, who's our new communication director, Amy Hoxler, who is our accountant, Mary Dolch, who's our organist choir master, Nathan Horner, who is heading up our student ministries now, Jessica, who is Jessica is outgoing, head of our Montessori school, but we have a wonderful replacement, Megan Ford, who's coming on board, and so Jessica's been great for the school, and we thank you for all your work, especially during COVID. Lindsay McCaw, who is our front desk administrative assistant. Father Ben, over here in the corner, who's our microphone guy. And we've got David and Diego upstairs in the balcony. We thank you all for your work. You may be seated. We're so glad that you're here. Oh, Father Nigel's not here today. We sent him out to another Episcopal church to fill in today. So he's out doing that, and that's why he's not here, but we're obviously very grateful for him.
Yeah. At this time, I'd like to ask the vestry nominees to come forward up front here. And while they're coming up, I'd like to thank this year's nominating committee, which, in addition to the outgoing vestry members I just mentioned, included Molly Ruger, Richard Corner, and Paige Crunk. Yeah. So our vestry candidates this year are Betsy Cromwell and Bud Sim, who are not with us this morning. I'm sure they're watching online, I guess. And along with Katie Denton, Michael Longworth, James Noel, Kim Timms, and Linda Whitehead. We're fortunate to have just a great group up here, and thank you all for your willingness to stand for election here. We really appreciate it. So y'all are free to have a seat. Let me just take a few minutes to discuss this year's voting process. You know, up until a couple of years ago, Episcopal Church rules actually required that voting for vestry members had to be done in person at the annual meeting. That was the only way. So if you got any pushback about absentee ballots and things like that, that's why, because that was what the requirement was. Given the situations with COVID, obviously that had to be relaxed somewhat, and so they have continued to carry that forward, and so it allowed us to change this year, and without getting maybe too political, the voting by mail hopefully gives us an opportunity for everyone to have more of a chance to participate in the process. But I would add right now that if, however, you haven't already mailed in or dropped off your ballot, you're still welcome to cast your ballot at the meeting here today. The ushers have ballots if you may need one, and raise your hand. They'll be happy to bring you a ballot, and we'll be able to collect those. But we already have a number in house. So, John, we've got a couple over here, and one in the back, and a few up here. So there's a sprinkling through it. So please keep your hands up until John's able to get, or Ben are able to get to you, and then we'll give you a chance to fill those out and turn those in, and we'll finish up the tallying for that. While they're doing that, let me just add that we've learned a few things from this year's voting process, and we already have plans in place to make some improvements for next year. One of those changes would be maybe to engage a few more people in the proofreading process, and I apologize to Kim Timms for the error in her name on the ballot. That was most unfortunate. The tallying is being done by the outgoing vestry members, and our hope is to be able to notify the candidates either later today or by tomorrow, and then we'll have the news out to the rest of the congregation Tuesday or at the latest in the email blast on Wednesday. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you're filling out a ballot now, please do put your name on it.
Yeah.
Robbie Burnt and I went through all the ballots the other day, and we removed all the names so that the counters won't see the name and who you voted for. But it allowed us to make sure we didn't have any duplicate ballots as well. So your name will not be on the ballot when it gets counted. Just wanted you to know that, and you must vote for 4.
Everybody get one that need one? Needs one? Okay. And then when you, yeah, thanks. When they're completed, just hold them up, and Father Ben or John will come swing around and grab those. Tony?
So Tony, you have a question about Sunday attendance or membership? Both. Okay. So before COVID, we'd grown for 12 years in a row. Every year, we'd had more people attending the next year than we did the year before. Nationally, across denominations and non-denominations, most churches have lost between 20 to 40% of their Sunday attendance. So before COVID, we were hitting 580 to 600 on a Sunday. We are now back in the 500s. Our middle service has recovered the most. The first service has recovered second most, and third service is still not quite recovered back to its full numbers. But we're not far off from where we were before COVID. We've made an astonishing recovery. And we'll we don't have all the numbers because during COVID we couldn't count with online attendance. It's hard to tell who's there, how long they watched. But we're running numbers again. So at next year's annual meeting, we'll have a very clear count for you on average Sunday attendance. In terms of membership, that's trickier. I'm less concerned about membership numbers than I am about the people who are actually here on Sunday mornings and in the pews. That's the number that matters to me. Lots of people can join a church, say they're members, and then never show up again. What matters to me is the numbers that are here. So our membership numbers are around 900. Our attendance right now is about over 5.
Okay, any ballots still need to be picked up? One right there. All right. Well, with that, we're adjourned, and we'll see you at lunch. Thank you all for your attendance.